G3. I hope you've been here before. If you haven't, we're some women who live and work in the tech field, and we talk. That's what we do. So without further ado, actually, you know what? I have to say something, because one of our co-hosts is not here today, and she had a birthday this week, so she gets birthday hat. Hello.
Birthday.
Hello, Christy Wells. Happy birthday this week. We're sorry we couldn't have you on the show this week. You're a busy woman, but we'll have you back. We'll celebrate again. Okay. So, my lovely co-hosts. Hello, Miss Rebecca Woodcock.
Hello, Tina.
The smart and beautiful. And
You make me blush.
Hallie Suit Tucker, our sexy, sassy
Hey,
co-host.
what is Mary eating? Mary, what are you eating?
Mary all of a sudden doesn't have audio.
No audio.
We'll just mime you.
We'll
do like a
We'll
soft
just
We'll
Sam,
fill
is
in
it-
the words. How about no?
just like this, Mary.
No. What did you do? You had audio just before we started.
Okay, how about now?
Oh, so much better. So much better.
Excellent.
Our sultry and super analytical Mary Hodder. Hi, Mary.
Hi.
How do you like those introductions?
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask, we're the Gilmore Gang girls or Gilmore Girls gang, and I often wondered, what do you all think about the word girls? Because some people are kind of offended by it.
I don't really like girls.
Don't like girls.
I'm a woman. I'm not a girl.
Kind,
I mean,
right.
like as a classification, boys and girls, okay, fine. But I mean,
Right.
how come we're not the
About
Gilmore
the
women?
word. It's about the alliteration. We have to have a good word. It could be Gilmore.
Yeah, it was all
Group
about the
or-
G, and that's kind of why we went to G3, because I was a little I wasn't sure how I felt about it either, and I didn't want the blowback from that. So
Well, I actually like it better than gals. If you did gals, I wouldn't even do the show.
I
I-
hate gals.
Oh, really?
Hate gals. Just hideous.
gals just
ever
doesn't do it
use
for
it.
you, huh?
No,
Yeah,
it's
totally not
creepy.
good.
Okay, because that's what just a sort of like a affectatious sort of term, or
It's
Guys,
the kind of
gal.
it's the kind of term that older men use when they're trying to be like pals with women or something. It's just
Gal
awful.
pal.
Ugh, I just hate it. Ugh, yuck. Awful.
so not particularly offensive, but not our most favorite word.
Girl or gal?
Girls.
Girls, not
I
good.
don't mind girl.
You don't mind girl.
Because I'm not a girl anymore. I don't mind girl. So
Right.
I think the older you get, the more you like girl.
Well, I
But
was
I find it's a problem when you're writing something and do you write, hey, women and guys, check this out,
Right.
or do you write girls and gals? I mean, guys and gals. What do you write? I mean, so the two
Right, hey
together
people.
is tricky.
I
How
really
about hey people?
hey people. I
Hey,
I really
comrades.
think that and personally I really think it's about how it's getting used. I mean, often it's not offensive, but sometimes it's used in this kind of belittling, I guess, sort of
Yeah.
way. And of course then that's not okay.
I like to use now, I call myself Mrs. Tucker.
Mrs. Tucker.
People will call me
Really?
Mrs. Tucker, and I'm like, who's that? Like, because
So
for so long
official.
I wasn't Mrs. Tucker, and that's my mother-in-law, and so I'm like, who's saying Mrs. Tucker? But I like it now. It sounds like I make jam, like I make homemade jam, Mrs. Tucker's sticky jam or something.
Oh, goodness.
I like
Sticky
it. It's good.
How about elderberry jam? Can you make elderberry jam?
Yes.
Mrs.
Tucker's
Tucker's elderberry jam.
For the elders among us.
For the
Elderberry.
Not girls.
You know what I do too? You know,
For
you
women
fill out
only.
a form sometimes for a subscription to a magazine or online or whatever. I always pull the pull down menu with the weirdo things like Mr., Mrs., Honorable. You know, it has for a judge, and I'm like lieutenant or petty officer a lot of the time when I'm filling these things out because I want to see if they sell the list. And then if I
Right.
get some junk mail and it's to like petty officer Mrs. Tucker, or I'm like, I
I
see.
don't think I've ever
That's
had
a
the
good
choice a drop down of petty officer. I have not seen that.
It's you know where it is? It's in UPS. I mean, yeah, UPS and FedEx.
Really?
I am petty officer Tucker.
Well,
I just
hello,
wanted
petty officer Tucker. We're gonna have to
it
change your
sounds
title.
great. I don't even know what it is, but I'm like, I want that. I thought one day when I looked at the list.
Mary, what's a
it's
petty
the title.
officer? We'll go to
I
you.
have no idea.
No idea. Good.
I think it's
Rebecca?
a military thing of somebody
Yeah.
who like pays
I
out
think so.
money.
I think you've got that right. Okay.
I don't know.
I mean, they're in
Actually.
charge of petty cash. The
So,
petty officer.
Not.
so speaking of girls,
I don't
Rebecca,
think so, but-
Rebecca, you sort of noticed a campaign that went a bit viral. I didn't catch it until you put it into our
Yeah.
feed. But you wanna tell us a little bit about that?
So this viral, just in the last 24 hours or 48 hours, this commercial went completely viral. It was created by a women's group, I believe, and I can't even remember the name of the women's group, but they shot a commercial of little girls dressed as princesses, and they are cursing like sailors, but
Yes.
they are throwing down some really terrible statistics about what happened to women as they grow up, like one in
Yeah.
four women will be raped or sexually assaulted, or why women are
Not
still
paid
getting
equally.
paid less for the same
Right.
for exactly the same performance, the same grades, straight out of school. And so it caused a lot of controversy because it was very shocking to see these little girls swearing and cursing and doing things like that. So there was a lot of discussion yesterday as to, is it sending the right message? Is it not sending the right message? Because little girls are cursing. And so it created a lot of debate, but I thought it was really interesting because, I have my own opinion, but I'd be curious to know what you ladies thought.
Well, what is your own
before I
opinion?
share. I'm all for it because if these little girls, if it's shocking to see or hear that from these little girls, yet eventually they're going to be experiencing this anyway, why should we be suppressing the expression of it? So I don't know. I think it's fine. I think the shock factor works to get the message out, and it's really important. Maybe things
It
will
got people's
change.
attention, right?
It got people's attention for sure.
But there's a little bit of like, well, should you be using children to?
Right. I could weigh in on that one.
Yeah.
And two things. I don't like that when they use children for anything. But this, I might be willing to go for that. On the other hand, right now in Massachusetts, there is like a fight to the death for the governorship, and there's an ad that's really vicious. Oh, actually, it's even an ad that's for New Hampshire. We get New Hampshire and Boston TV, where they use a little girl spelling at a spelling bee in this way where it gets a lot of attention, and it's this Republican ad that says, "Oh, so what do you think? Can you spell the last name of that candidate? It's Jean Shaheen." And she goes, "Obama, right?" And it's really obnoxious. And so this coming at the same time for a chief petty officer as myself, which, by the way, a non-commissioned officer in the Navy is what a petty officer is, and in particular an NCO in the U.S. Navy or Coast Guard, ranking above a seaman and below the chief petty officer is what a petty officer is.
You just looked all this up, didn't you?
We got a note from
you know
on
she did.
Facebook from one of our viewers too, what it was. But anyway, I find when they do that upsetting. So I'd say that's what. And it's maybe just because this stupid ad is so annoying. Mary, you vote. What do you think?
I don't like it generally either when kids are used in political ads. It feels like it's pandering. But I think the notion of the ad that Rebecca mentioned makes a lot more sense. It's shocking to see little girls talk about. Well, first of all, our whole culture discounts little girls, right? Actually, all the way through, I would say, age 25, girls are discounted. And, it reminds me of a much more positive video that Peter Hirschberg made a few years ago, where he took a group of girls who were around 8, 9 years old, and he gave them money. I mean, it was fake money, not Monopoly money, but it was like money that was, fake printed green dollars. And he gave them each what was the equivalent of like $1 million or something, and they got pitched different ideas. It was like they held the partner meeting for a venture capital firm, and they pitched each other on deals that they were bringing in. And the girls were actually really smart about what should get funded and what shouldn't. Like they were totally skeptical, and these were real ideas that were going around Silicon Valley at the time. They were brilliant. But, it really showed, it was funny because for exactly the same reason that it would be shocking to see little girls talk about the stats of rape and other stuff. But it really, I think it worked for the same reason. And it's because we never let little girls talk about anything real. And so you really pay attention when they do talk about something real, because our culture says those people, we don't need them. We'll just dismiss them. They're supposed to be cute, right? And that's it. Which is a terrible message, actually.
And dropping the F-bomb, little girl dropping the F-bomb. I don't know, in a way.
That doesn't bother me. What the fuck, really? Why should I care about that,
Well, swearing, it can be kind of powerful in that sense, right? So in a way, they're sort of lending them a burst of power, perhaps. And the power is a little bit shocking also. And attention-getting.
Yeah, I think the message
I don't think it's going to scar the kids.
No, and
I'm sure they've heard it all.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, by 9 years old, they're swearing anyway. This is the reality, and probably younger. I mean, I'm not kidding. And actually, if this is empowering to actually stand up to these kinds of stats and say, no, I am not okay with that. Fuck that. Why shouldn't we let little girls say those things?
Okay, well, I'm going to render this it's okay with me. I don't know. It's not unanimous here, but I think it's all right. So, what do you all want to talk about? I've got a list here. Did you hear about Steve Jobs biopic coming out featuring Mr. Christian Bales as the lead? It's an Aaron Sorkin scripted biopic. Should be lots of words. Fast talking Aaron Sorkin. That's kind of exciting. Christian Bales is
They didn't have enough trouble with the other Steve Jobs movie, which was a disaster. They want to do another one. I'm like,
an Aaron Sorkin one.
He's a great writer. Yeah. He is definitely a great writer. I like him, but I still think there's something about, people have a cult, adoration for Jobs. I think no one can play him, and there's something that just drives people crazy seeing someone play him. I think on some level people want to believe he's not dead. I think it's also a bit like he's a god. Like, you don't imitate God. Like, I just think that I think people are so crazy for him that it's touching something very deep that people feel is not okay to mess with. Maybe this will be a great movie. The other problem is the more deep movie you do about Jobs, you find out he was a fucking lunatic, a nasty shit, and the people I know who worked for him hated him. So
I actually know
Yeah,
a couple
do
people
people
who
wanna
worked
see
with
that
him really
movie?
closely. One person who helped me a lot with one of my companies, he worked for him. He made versions, I think 1 through 3 or 4 of iMovie, and he talked about they basically sequestered them in a separate building. Steve Jobs would come in every week and scream at everyone and then leave, but they were highly motivated to make something really good, and they did come out with something that let regular people edit video and sound and was very good. And I don't know, I mean, it's what I mean, who's to say? Picasso was a lunatic too, so were many other artists. It's people. I think people are attracted to creating art or creating great things, who maybe have some other hard sides in that wild circle of incredible qualities that let them make the great things, and those hard sides are pretty darn hard.
did you guys read the book, the Walter Isaacson book about him?
Nope. What was it
It
like?
doesn't, it will not make him more friends, this guy, Steve Jobs.
But
It's
I don't
like-
think he cared
I'm
about
sure he's
having
looking
friends.
for friends.
Yeah. I don't think he wanted any.
That I don't think that was his goal.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it just makes him out with a lot of details to be just a lunatic.
Well,
I
everyone,
mean,
it's, I think probably a widely held belief that he was a bit of an asshole, right?
yeah.
And tough to. I don't know if people really connected with him, but he was a tough character and extremely demanding.
Right.
And kind of hard to work for, but he's someone, he and his company changed the world, and they've made lasting impressions on where we are and who we are right now and how we operate. So
I
Big
think
personality.
for me, there was a telling story about him I think I read an excerpt from that book, or a book about him. Apparently, at a certain point, he because he was adopted, he eventually went back and I think found his mother and then his sister.
Yes.
And he wanted to know who his father was.
Right.
And so he, I think his mother or his sister were in touch with him and told him where he could go find him. And so he, I don't know, emailed him, called him something, had some kind of communication that he was going to come by. And the guy, I think, was either a cook or a counter bartender type of guy in a diner.
Yep.
And so Steve Jobs went in, and the father didn't know what Steve Jobs looked like. And he observed him from behind the somewhere away from the counter, but he just kind of observed him and decided that he didn't want to know him. And he just got up and walked out, and he never actually met him. He just saw him.
wow.
And there's a lot of things, like I'm sure the psychologist could go crazy over that
Yeah.
whole scenario, but it's very, very interesting, and to me it says certain things about what mattered to him and what he thought about. And I believe at that point Apple was successful. It was, I think, in the later 80s, and he probably just decided he didn't want to spend time on knowing somebody that he didn't feel could add to his life or something.
Well,
even if it was his father.
meeting a parent for the first time as an adult, which I have done,
Wow.
is interesting
Surreal, I would
and
bet.
not easy.
Yeah.
I can't imagine.
Yeah, it's
I think
that's another show.
God knows.
Really,
Yeah.
it's another show. But
I think that-
it's a tough thing.
Yeah.
And
They often-
I can relate to his reaction. I honestly can.
I mean,
Well,
you can
and
understand it. I can
I can
understand
understand.
it, even
Yeah, well, I
though
think we
I
can all
haven't been in that
understand it.
position.
But
Yeah.
doing that, and I get it. Quite frankly, I do.
well, I don't think anyone who's not been adopted can understand what adopted is about. It's heavy.
Yeah, I do have a friend who he's found his mother, and he's contacted her, and he's in his later 40s. He's tried to contact her a few times, and she just refuses to talk with him. And I think that's got to be really tough, because at least Steve Jobs had the choice, or you, Tina, had the choice. I mean, the person was open to meeting, but to be refused, I think it's just got to be incredibly painful.
Yeah. That's the big fear when you find, and I was not adopted, by the way. So when I talk about this, I want to make that clear. But I didn't have any connection with my father, my biological father, growing up at all. And that's the big fear, is that you're going to meet a family member, be it a parent or a sibling, because I went through that too. And you just don't know what you're going to get. Are you going to be rejected? Are you going to at all be thought of as a relation? Is there any sort of kind of DNA connection that kind of makes someone feel like your family? Or is it all obligation? Or it's such a huge thing. It's such a huge bag, but it's an interesting one. I mean, I would I'd love to explore it actually on a show like this with more people who've gone through it, and or who are going through it. There's lots of people out there who are finding themselves and their families. As a matter of fact, I think I told the story when I was one of the things that I found out in doing the ancestry DNA thing was I found a cousin, and she's adopted, and we don't know how we're related. And I find that it's really interesting that can actually happen. We've got the technology and the science to do that, but making all the pieces fit together and then wanting to, or being able to move forward. And by the way, it took me a long, long time to actually move forward in wanting to meet my father. I mean,
Yeah.
a decade or so. So big, yeah. All right. Oh, wow. Wow. Now that I've really put us into a real funk here.
Yeah, on a happy note.
Thank you so much, Tina. Wow. Let me.
No, it's
Can I
all,
find
all
anything
okay.
a little more up? I don't know. We were all
It's kind
talking
of
right
something-
before the show about how we're all having a crap week or a crap day. So maybe this is
Mine's
appropriate.
going just fine.
You're doing
So
doing
far.
fine.
I have some good news.
Don't jinx me.
Well, I hope I've appropriately, depressed the shit out of you now. So, you have to be in this.
No.
Not nearly.
You have to be in this with all of us. So, Well, what else? What are y'all? There's a couple things that came out just this week. Google Inbox. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm on Rebecca. Thank you. Hi. Okay. Another thing. I'm not feeling really well today. So I'm trying
do
to
a
push
song
the
and
right
dance.
buttons at the right time, and I'm not doing a very good job of that. So this show will be like someone else is talking and you see someone else's face. That's great.
Okay.
So Google Inbox came out this week, and Facebook Rooms. Any comments? Anyone use
Facebook
any of
Rooms?
these things? Know what I'm talking about, or otherwise read about
We know what
Saw
you're
it.
talking about, but
Yeah.
I don't think we care.
it? Don't
Yeah.
care. Don't care about which one?
Inbox.
Inbox. Really?
I looked at the Facebook rooms and was like,
explain
I don't
what
care.
is it? What is it?
So I have not been successful in actually using Facebook rooms yet.
What is it?
It's so it's like a mobile app that it's a sort of a harkening back a little bit to old internet chat room sort of paradigm, I think. Anonymous-ish members, and you I think it's going to be, I think, a little bit like how we us women people
Yeah.
use
Gal?
gals use
Yeah.
Facebook Messenger in our group sort of way, where we have, a private place.
Oh, I
So
understand.
this is what Rooms is like. It can be private, it can be public. You have to get invited to it.
Is
There's
it
a
part of
QR
Facebook
code that you
Messenger?
use to get into it.
It's part of Messenger?
It is not part of Messenger.
Oh, because
It
I'm
is
busy
a-
not using Messenger because I don't want to use it. So I just wondered.
It is not part of Messenger. It is a whole new Josh Miller, who we've actually
Why?
had on the Gilmore Gang, is the author of this app.
So
Okay,
I
Josh, we don't
understand.
care.
Is it supposed to be like secret where you're anonymous, but you're chatting with
little-
people anonymously? I don't get it.
A little bit on the anonymous level, yes. But I think more or less the functionality of it is to gather people who have some sort of common bond. Maybe it's, some sort of interest group or whatever. And
Okay.
this is your little meeting room.
Bubble chat room. Okay.
Yeah. It's supposed to be really easy
don't really
on
care.
mobile. It's got these QR codes, so you don't have to be pasting links and stuff like that. But like I said, unfortunately, I haven't been able to actually. We started to set one up for the Gilmore Gang, and I tried to get into it, and I don't know. I'm doing something wrong, or probably more likely my my iOS is not up to date, and it's probably causing problems. Yeah, that's probably it.
You guys don't want to talk about Gamergate, which is,
Again.
huh?
Well, we did talk about
I mean, we
Gamergate.
could talk about it every week if we want.
Well, it just keeps getting
like it's
worse
not
and
going
worse.
away.
So there is a little update. The UK announced, I think it was 2 days ago, that they're looking at doing legislation that would allow for harassers to be jailed for 2 years.
Yeah,
Which
I
is-
think there's
is kind
going to
of
be
amazing.
arrests.
Yeah,
That's
it's
good.
The thing is that it's a lot of what they're doing isn't really illegal here in the U.S. But I do know a woman who works in gaming who is trying to connect a lot of the women who've been doxxed and driven out, or at least driven out of the conversation because they've been so harassed, with the White House to talk about what could occur for. And so she had me introduce, because I knew a couple of them, introduce her, do email introductions, and it is really. The problem is we have a free speech clause in the Constitution, and so how do you mitigate that? Is this like yelling fire in the crowded theater, where that is illegal because you're endangering people? I mean,
Right.
not all speech is protected, but we're very careful about, and for good reason, about not shutting down hate speech because we have a free speech clause. So it's kind of a tough issue.
Is it considered stalking?
Well,
Because
you know,
I would
the
think
thing-
it could be under stalking or libel or
Yeah, that's
slander.
what I think.
So, but if they're yes, there are libel and defamation things. Certainly, if they're writing up women's
Right.
real home addresses and phone numbers, and then saying that they're, I don't know, prostitutes, come and visit me,
Right.
or
Right.
something really pretty terrible like that. And certainly threatening to kill someone, that's an issue. That's a crime.
right,
But-
I would think.
But
Yeah.
it's
One would hope.
yeah.
People take the free speech thing a little bit too far because you can't just say anything you
Right,
want.
you can't.
The sky's the limit. I mean, we do have limits. And I don't see how that argument translates to the internet in these cases. People are personally being threatened and their reputation being threatened. And that is not free speech. That is not an opinion or having an opinion
Right.
that allows you to have a different religion or have a negative opinion of a government. That is actually personally threatening. I
Right.
don't understand how people
Well,
can protect
but
that
it's-
under free speech.
The issue is how do you construct the law so that you don't shut down free speech, actual free speech, and
Right.
yet you
Yeah.
still criminalize harassing, threatening behavior. And it's a tricky line. It's that how do you craft the law so the contours are just
Right.
so.
Well, how about the possibility of, boycotting games or companies that make games, or if women are, and they are, something like 50% or more of the people who buy and use games, and women get really furious with what's going on and stop buying them or recommending them, perhaps from the commercial point of view. It's reminding me of the abuse of the girlfriends of NFL players. Maybe it has to become a financial consideration where anybody takes it seriously.
Well, isn't that hurting women, the women who are working, as programmers or whatever on games? And I mean, is that going to hurt their paycheck?
It probably depends. I think a lot of
Right.
the women gamers are actually working on more independent projects. It's the
Yeah.
big company games that, and the thing is that the guys who are harassing and the guys who buy and support those games, it's actually not that big of a percentage. I mean,
Yeah.
I've seen some estimates that are like, 15%, 20% of the whole gamer user and developer populations. So, it's
Wait.
but
Say that
they're
again. 15% of what?
15% of the user population might buy those games and be highly supportive of very sexist, misogynist games. And 15%, I mean, I don't know if these are correct statistics at all. It's just that's what I've been reading, is that 15% of the developers of games are these kind of rabid, harassing, crazy guys. So the question is, or at least supportive of that kind of behavior, So the question is, if they are a minority, what if we just ignored them? Because frankly, what I think they're looking for is attention.
Right. I wonder about that.
There was a great article that, let me see if I can grab the link. It's called An Open Letter to Brands About Gamergate. And it's in the week from, I think, 2 days ago. And it says, it starts out, Dear corporate PR departments, like if you get deluged with a lot of crap, like how about just ignoring it instead of pulling sponsorship from good games and from
Right.
good efforts? Like how about we all just take a step back and basically don't give these guys any attention? Then they have to crawl back into the hole and we move on. And I actually really like the logic of that, because the fact is those guys are looking for attention and they're getting it. And we keep talking about it and we're giving it to them.
Well, how do you ignore, the death threats and things like that? You can't ignore that.
I don't want to ignore the harassment, like the effects of the harassment, but I'm saying ignore those guys in their, so they keep making these arguments, right? This journalist or that journalist isn't fair because they're covering women's games, or they're covering a misogynist game and talking about the misogyny. Like, how about if we ignore those guys and those kinds of claims, and let's not respond as companies or sponsors, potential sponsors of, let's say a gaming conference where that speaker might be the journalist who noted the misogyny in a game. Like, let's actually just ignore the crap part of this and then support the women who are being harassed. But the only reason those guys are getting away with it is because we're all paying attention. And I like that argument. I mean, I think that's a good argument. Don't feed the trolls is basically what they're saying.
Don't feed the trolls.
Don't feed the trolls.
Well,
it's hard to do.
If it's effective, great.
Yeah.
That would be my question. Is it honestly effective to ignore?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's, so far everyone's been paying attention, so we've got to try it, I think. But I like this article. It's written by a guy, Ryan Cooper. I'll post it in our feed. But
Yeah.
but it's basically tuning the message towards corporate PR departments that might put money into sponsorships and other issues, and basically saying, "Don't be bullied. This is a minority group,
Yeah.
and they're extremist. And why would you pay attention to any extremist group that's
Well,
bullying
this is
you?"
because of Intel pulling their money, pulling
Yeah,
their sponsorship. Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
that's what I thought.
So,
Actually, Adobe and Mercedes-Benz also folded before the Gamergate tag kind of came up
Right.
and became a thing. So there are other companies that have been bullied into pulling sponsorships for very positive things.
Right.
So it's, yeah, I mean, he's trying to support those companies, which I think is a really good thing.
So we can talk about snoring instead.
Oh,
Well,
no.
did you all notice?
We could talk about elephants.
Oh, yes, we do want to do that.
Elephants?
Wait.
Elephant.
One second though. We talked about something. I think it was it last show? Was it on show 21? We're on 22, by the way. Isn't that
Wow.
exciting? Wow.
Very proud of it.
Pando Daily is reporting that Whisper is fucked. That's what they say.
Are you
In
using
what
the
way?
F word like a little girl?
Okay.
Tell us how.
And we've been potty mouthed today, haven't we? So Senator Jay Rockefeller is calling on the CEO of Whisper to come to a Senate committee hearing, or not a hearing, let me get this, a briefing, and basically you got some splaining to do
Yeah.
Yeah.
on
Mr.
privacy.
Because if you're facilitating the posting of defamatory or libelous statements, you have some that are anonymous. You have some responsibility for that, right? I mean, I think at that point it becomes a real problem to not be able to see who's accusing you of whatever.
Yeah, they're particularly concerned about Whisper supposedly being able to track people who have opted out of or turned off their geolocation and are possibly still being tracked.
That's interesting. That's a privacy issue.
Yes.
I didn't know. Yeah, that's what you're talking about. Yeah, that's very interesting too. There's a number of other apps as well, Snapchat and other apps that basically, because they're used on mobile phones, it's very easy to collect location data. And there's 4 types of data that you can collect. So even if you say, well, hey, we're not collecting GPS, it's like, well, but there's a GPS, which is the cell tower triangulating. So you can know within 300 yards where somebody is. There's Wi-Fi data. So if you can see the most recent Wi-Fi the person was on or is currently on, most Wi-Fi is now mapped to an IP address, which is location, there's some location indication there. And then there's, if there's some kind of a network that the person's tuned into or using a local area network. And a lot of companies start everything from Starbucks to casinos, companies use those, and those are location telling as well. So
I'm just being devil's advocate. What's the problem? They're not sharing the data with anyone, right? So why can't they do this?
because you've opted out. So if you've said, I don't want my location data collected, and they say, okay, we're going to agree to that, then they're breaking the agreement. That's the problem.
Well, if they are but if you opt out of GPS tracking and you're still
but
able to get location data otherwise,
I mean, as the company?
I mean, you haven't opted out of everything. You've just opted out of GPS.
But they're terming it as location. And so if you say you're not collecting location data, you're not supposed to collect location data.
Right.
Doesn't matter
Is that what they said?
Apparently that's, yeah.
The letter and the looming staff breeding and possible FTC investigation was prompted by revelations published by The Guardian about how Whisper tracks users, including those who had opted to turn off geolocation.
So there you go.
Arguably most damning of all was the Guardian's claim that Whisper executives actively tried to monitor users who they think may be public figures or otherwise newsworthy targets.
Okay, interesting.
that's
yeah, they have some
bad.
splaining to do.
Yes.
Yeah, that's really bad.
In the words of Ricky Ricardo, Lucy, you got some splaining to do.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
from. That's where that's from. I didn't know.
And my day is complete when I get Hallie to laugh. That's it.
I like that. Listen, I also am loving. There's like a black thing right behind your head, Mary, so you look like a
Oh, yeah,
Japanese
it's-
warrior. You know,
Oh yeah,
like
do that.
Right.
Oh yeah.
the guy from the Mikado. You know,
Here.
damn, I
that?
liked it. You,
Oh, she's
I
messed
shouldn't
it
have
all up
told
now.
you.
Now it's all just regular.
Oh,
All right, you guys.
All
I want to
right.
know what phone version you're all on and what phones you have because I have a question about phones.
I still have my 4GS. I'm old school. Old school here.
What do you got there?
I don't know.
I
5.
can't recognize any of them. Do you recognize them? Like,
It's about to change.
yeah,
I am moving up to the
the biggie.
jumbo version of the
Jumbo
iPhone
iPhone.
Did you
because
see they were
phablet.
selling?
my
the-
eyes need it. Hello.
Well, yeah. Did you see they're selling the big one in Hong Kong with tailoring so the gentleman's pocket can be bigger to put the thing. I saw this thing. I'm like, this
Well-
is really crazy. But so here's my question. And
Yes.
Mary, you still have your Moto?
Yep,
You have
still got
Android?
the Moto. Still got
Yeah,
the Moto,
okay.
and I'm on Android 4.2.2.
So listen,
So
I am
kind of after.
fascinated because I have a son with the fact that even when he was 2 years old, we would walk around and any car he could kind of like identify instantly a BMW from a Porsche, from a VW, from whatever,
Wow.
right? And I've never been able to do that, but most men I've ever known are like we can be on the highway going 800 miles an hour and they'll see a car and they know exactly what model it is and what it is. And I do believe they also do that with phones. And I wanted to know you think that's true. Have you noticed that?
My husband
almost-
can't identify a car to save his life,
What about a phone?
but I can. But maybe
I-
that's the Detroit in me.
I can identify some cars and some phones, but it's because I've paid attention to those particular ones, but I wouldn't say across the board, like I have no idea.
No.
I can identify a Tesla, a BMW,
The
and,
Tesla is so,
and Toyota trucks, and
it's
that's
so
about it.
California that you can, a Tesla, you can, like, it's very California, sorry.
Because there are Teslas all over. And I mean,
They're
there's Tesla
everywhere here.
dealerships like every 3 blocks on El Camino Real.
Not around here.
That's because you've
and
outlawed
I'm
them, right,
convinced
Hallie?
there's more Priuses here in the Bay Area than any
Then-
place in the world.
Really?
It just,
Oh, yeah.
it feels like that to
Probably.
me, and I have one. But
There's a ton
yeah,
here.
Ugh.
But
There's
Rebecca,
a ton there in
Rebecca,
Boston.
Rebecca, do you see somebody's phone and go, "Wow, he's got the new cool phone"? I mean, do you judge people by it? Is what I'm saying.
No.
I mean, I generally I can tell, but I don't know that I think they're necessarily cooler for it. I might think the opposite, actually. Like,
Yes. Yeah,
you ran
I-
out and bought this
You
thing
jump
before
so
even-
fast,
Really
right? You
fast.
have to have. Well, that's kind of interesting. Like, is having the newest and the greatest the day it's released, is that too like flashy
Pathetic.
or trying
It's
too
pathetic.
hard?
To me, it's pathetic. That's
It's
what I was kind of
pathetic.
getting at.
Yeah.
Like,
Wow.
why do people have to have this new thing immediately?
I think it's
Well,
kind
some
of,
people have shows and they have to like know what's going on and stuff.
yeah. I mean, I'll probably get one, but I don't want to get one when if they decide, oh, this thing we actually screwed up on it. We're going to
Right.
modify it a little bit and come out. So there's no way I'm going to be the first one to stand in line and
Right.
beta test a $600 thing that I still have to pay for.
Right.
That they are and be the one to find out how buggy it is. No,
Right.
I'll wait until they figured all that stuff out, then pay my $600 on something that I don't have to deal and be frustrated with.
But this town, people are working for all kinds of tech companies, and as soon as some new hardware comes out, a lot of people are wanting to know,
right.
how does this integrate with the company that I work with? How is this integrating with this other software that I'm working? I mean, they kind of need to know for their jobs, kind of instantly, or
No,
it
that's
might
not
help.
true.
It might help.
I think, okay, you're talking about the one or two bloggers that maybe,
Right.
but
Not
the
just-
majority of people,
Mm.
it's really a status thing. And I think that's
It
kind of
is.
sad.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So,
Mary, what do you think?
So when
So-
we meet someone in a bar with a brand new phone that just came out, we walk past this dude, right? Because
I mean,
he's
I
sort
don't
of,
really
yeah.
care. I mean,
I'm-
the thing is that if I see someone with a really old phone, it does cause me to pause and wonder. And it's not a judgment. It's more like, like
Wow.
why they're really holding, because first of all,
That's
phones
a
break.
lifestyle choice.
Like, how did they hold on to that phone for like 5 years or whatever? Like, that's
Yeah.
amazing.
I actually
That's hard.
saw
Spit,
somebody
gum
with
tape,
an
you know.
old school
Yeah,
flip
and
phone the other day.
so you
And I
know,
judged
I don't know, but it is kind of amazing. So
okay. Do you have any friends who absolutely refuse to have a cell phone? Because I've got a few.
I
It drives
do.
me
Yeah,
I have a
crazy.
few.
This
You know what
isn't
I
a
do?
fair
You know
that's
what I
fair.
do?
Wait.
So when I'll call them on the phone and their answering machine, and I'll leave them a message and I'll say, "Oh, I missed you. You're not home. I'll call you on your cell. Bye." And they don't have one, and then it's like, what do they do with that? But I'm always
so
teasing them about
you're doling out a punishment. You're not going to hear
Well-
from me because you don't have a cell phone. I tried your home, and now I tried your non-existent cell, and you're not going to hear from me. Yeah,
Actually,
that's a
what I do is
punishment,
then I
Mary.
send them an email
Well, first
and
of
I tell
all,
them what I want.
finally got rid of voicemail. My husband doesn't have voicemail. We hate voicemail because
Yeah.
it's one other stupid place that someone leaves me a message that I
Yeah.
don't look at for 3 weeks. So it's like, don't leave me voicemail. So we have that turned off. But also, to be fair,
On your
this is-
cell? On your cell, you have it turned off?
yeah,
Wow. Hmm.
I don't want to use it. It's
I,
ridiculous.
I'm not willing to turn it off because there is the occasional time when I really need it. But I will say that most people I know never leave voicemail anymore.
I know.
I
think
basically
it's
get
over.
almost no voicemail. I get calls like for when we've made a time. But I don't even call people very much either. I use them for like business calls, like you got to make an appointment or something, and
Hallie,
then
I'm going to
scheduled
give you
calls.
Hallie, I'm
But
going to give you a use
everything
case.
else is text.
Yeah.
Everything else is text.
I actually,
you know?
so I've actually been using Messenger for phone calls in the last week, and the quality has been really, really great.
Oh, for
So-
the voice part of it.
Voice phone calls through
Ooh.
Messenger, the Facebook Messenger app, and it's been surprisingly great quality. And of course, my boyfriend's now in Mexico, and so
Aw.
voice calls are, with all the data, international data plan,
It's
it's
expensive.
ridiculous. The charges are
Yeah.
expensive, but we both have smartphones. We both have Messenger. We text through Messenger, and so
Wow.
now we can call each other through Messenger.
I'm
which is
surprised you
great.
don't use WhatsApp, too. Do you use WhatsApp a little or a lot?
I actually don't because
Everybody I
don't
know.
really- yeah, a
Everybody
lot
I
of
know who's
people
down,
use
does
it, and
any
I
talking
just-
to
I-
Central or South America uses it.
Yeah, so he uses it with his family a lot
Mhm.
for communication,
Yeah.
a lot, which I find interesting that his parents and the
Yeah.
whole family use it. I don't really find the need to use it. I think WhatsApp gained critical mass because they solved a real problem around the voice calls using data and really freeing that up for people to communicate. But now I'm using Messenger for that. It's really been interesting. I think I might use it more for phone calls.
I was going to say about this discussion of who has what kind of phone, it's not fair for one reason, which is both Mary and I have significant others who are phone programmers, right? They're iOS and Android programmers.
Yeah.
So we actually have the weirdest scenario of, and my husband hates because he spends all day with like 500 devices sitting on his desk testing them and writing for them. He has a Nokia phone that must be 7 years old.
What, like a
It's
flip phone?
it isn't even. It looks like a BlackBerry, or it's like
Yeah.
it's like the worst phone they ever made, I think. And so we are surrounded by people who have the newest devices every minute, and he's like a refusenik about his own phone. He's like got the shittiest phone. And when we met, he had no phone, and he was a cell phone programmer.
I think Microsoft is rebranding the Nokia phone, their Nokia phones as Microsoft phones. Didn't we see that
Yeah.
today?
Yeah.
Some,
Yes. Yeah. They
I think
bought
that's
them.
true. Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm particularly interested in whether people use them like as status symbols. Do you go, wow, he's got this phone or that phone? Because that seems weird
People
to
do,
me.
but I don't.
Yeah.
I'm not really impressed with that. I'm generally not impressed with people who are
Trying to impress
impressed with
you.
shiny, flashy things. They're,
Yeah.
Well,
I think
not a
I'm wondering if
character.
people need to be like embarrassed that I got the new thing and now I can't take it out in public because I might be judged by Rebecca Woodcock.
Yeah, they should think that. That's what they should think.
Well,
No, you don't have to have the newest thing. I mean, in my opinion,
Yeah.
if you do have the newest thing, it's fine. But if
Well,
you have it on day one,
you
I
have to
think
have something that works for you. But for
Yeah.
some people, new things work for them. That's what they need. I don't know.
So what do you guys
I-
want for Christmas?
Live and let live, please.
I think there's, there may be a bit of a sea change happening, and I would relate it back to climate change and the 7 billion people on the planet. And, for the last however many hundreds of years or 150 years, we've had a growth economy, right? Which is all about
Right.
getting new things and showing off and keeping up with the Joneses or whatever kind of, goofy slogan you want to use to describe this. And I think when I talk to folks on like the projects that I'm working on who are younger,
Yeah.
there is a lot, they don't want to own a car.
Mm-hmm.
They
Right.
don't, the whole notion of owning stuff, you own the tools that you need to live your life.
Right.
But things are very minimalized. I mean, part of it may be because the younger generation is saddled with $1 trillion in, student loan debt. But
Yep.
I mean, basically, part of it is economic, but I think part of it is a choice where it's like, why do I want to have all this stuff? It's wrecking the planet.
stressful.
Right.
It's wrecking
No,
the
it's
planet to
stressful.
own stuff. Every time you buy something, it's not just the object or the cost, the environmental cost of building that object. It's like later it's going to get thrown away, and then there's that
Right.
environmental cost, and there's
Which is-
the transit
and what does
all
it
that
do to our
stuff.
psyches too to have all that weight and responsibility? You've got your mortgage payment, your car payment, your this. There's a lot
Yeah.
of
Yeah, I think
it's
that's
just
what I
baggage.
wanted.
it's very taxing on one's, when you can be putting all that energy into, developing something or creating, being a creative person or just doing your job, right?
Right.
Well, or
this
you could
I
feel
think
better about
also-
the environment because you can basically say, I use less,
Right.
so I'm less taxing on the planet. And I think there's a lot of people out there now who are they're buying Priuses because they want to be less taxing.
And we're
And
seeing
so-
we're seeing that in the
don't know
sharing
if they're
economy,
buying.
right? We're seeing that in the tiny house movement. There's lots of examples of that going on.
Yeah.
So I think what is cool often now is more experiential. So if you've had a cool experience, you share it.
That's-
And people are, I think people now look for cool
Mary,
experiences.
Mary,
Ooh, cool
lions,
experience.
lions and tigers and bears. Let's hear
and
about
bears. Oh my.
What?
So
you talking about?
I went to this thing 2 nights ago. We bought on Groupon something for Vision Quest, which is it's a private refuge for animals that are like, they could be at the end of their lives, they could have been injured, they could be retired from a zoo or a circus, which just sounds horrifying to me. But
Elephant.
there are elephants, lions, tigers, Bengal tigers. There are many of these were always, they were bred in captivity, so they've always been in captivity. And so it's not like they can be put back out into the wild, but they're taking beautiful care of them. I had really the sense that I had was that, the veterinary care, the care for the animals, the care for their mental state is very important. It's this thing, it's just south of Salinas. It's called Vision Quest. If you Google Vision Quest in Salinas, it'll come up. But they're now partnering with the Monterey Zoo, and I think there's a man who owns 105 acres. He started this refuge for animals that didn't have a place to go, and the alternative was to put them to sleep, which is also awful. And so he made this refuge, and now they've gotten so many animals there. They're partnering with the zoo, I think, for better care, for better, because we know more about how to take care of them and what to do in captivity. And, the thing is, so we looked at 4 Bengal tigers yesterday and the day before, and even got to feed some of them.
Sorry.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which was really cool. No petting. But these tigers are enormous, of course, but they're really, really cool. And the woman, as she's explaining, says there are more Bengal tigers in captivity in Texas as pets, just the state of Texas. There are 3,000. Because you have to fill out paperwork, and so they know about slightly over 3,000. There may be more that they don't know about, but there are not that many tigers in the wild in Asia.
Oh my God!
Wow.
Yeah.
3,000 tigers in Texas.
As pets.
Population
And
of
that's-
captive.
And that's outside of the refuges and zoos and other places.
Wow.
These are pet tigers.
It's
Bizarre.
that
It's
is.
Very.
And the thing is you're there, and it's like amazing that, like in the elephant play yard, our little safari tent overlooked this 5-acre play yard, and there's 5 elephants there. 3 from Africa, 2 from India, which, by the way, they came from different ancestors, so they cannot breed together. They can have grandchildren, which is how they're part of the same species, but they cannot breed together. It's really interesting. Yeah.
How's that work?
Grandchildren, but yeah.
Well,
how does that work?
it's
Says
kind
Hallie?
of like it's kind of like a mule is part donkey and part horse, and a mule is
Which
sterile.
part?
Like it's basically they're animals within the same species that can come together through alternate channels, like through some closer subspecies, and then their children can have the grandchildren, and that's how Indian elephants are from the woolly mammoth, and African elephants are from the mastodon, and so they cannot breed directly.
I've seen
But
them.
anyway, so you're watching these 5 elephants run around, they play, they do stuff. There's a zebra in there. They play with the zebra, they play with the 2 African buffalo and the ostrich. And it's cool, and yet it's just, at the same time my heart is like so heavy, because I'm like, why are these animals not in the wild? Like, we've wrecked the planet, and so we can't have them in the wild. Like, it's very sad.
Please put a link. I
will.
This place in our Facebook page, and maybe I'm sure they have a donation area. I'm sure they need the donations. And I have been to a animal refuge around the Santa Rosa area a while back, and that was a great place too. And these people are really doing, if I can say, God's work. I mean, they're really, taking care of these animals that have no place or wouldn't have a life at this point. It's amazing. So, and it's great to experience it. When you experience it, you feel closer to it. You feel like helping.
I really don't want to be close to Bengal tigers.
Well, they're in a cage. I mean, and you can't walk right up to the cage. Like they're
Thank
very
God.
partly because it disturbs the animals. They keep everyone back at a safe distance for you and for the animals. There was a lioness that had just been spayed, and they had vets come up from LA to do the spaying. And I don't
Oh,
know if
I
that's
want
a
that
joke,
job.
well, they also had to do a couple of operations on a bear and a couple of other animals. And, they were so careful to move us out of the way, keep everyone quiet, because even as they're coming out of anesthesia, it's so disturbing for them to,
Right.
to just be afraid and in a vulnerable position. Like they were very, very careful. And I really appreciated that. They were careful about food and, proper vitamins and all these things. So it's great. And yet you're just thinking, oh my God, these animals cannot live in the wild where they really ought to be. And it's both really exciting and really sad.
And really heartbreaking, yeah.
And heartbreaking. But, all the money that we spent staying there, we stayed in this fabulous little safari cabin with a view of the elephants and whatnot. And we paid to do extra tours. So the $40 per person that we spent goes right into their care.
Yeah.
And they have a lot of personnel there. Like they easily have a 1-to-1 ratio of people over the course of the week, in 24-hour care. To animals, and that's really impressive. Like,
and Mary, they hope for people like you who will go, get out in public and talk about them and say, hey, this is a great place and it's worth our attention and it's worth our sharing our wallet.
Yeah.
Can they give the elephants a manicure?
No.
Because I've always wondered. They have those great big nails.
Actually,
I'm
it's
like,
really
wow, that would be incredible.
Elephants. So one thing I learned is that the tusks elephants have 6 teeth. 2 of them are the tusks, and the other 4 are, on each side in their mouth. And if they don't chew enough, the molars keep growing and growing, and they get too big, and then they stop being able to eat because they've grown too big.
Wow.
And the other thing is that in the wild,
so they wear them down by.
They wear them down, and they'll actually fall out. They have 6 sets, and so over the course of their lives, the reason they live so long is because they can keep, generating new teeth, and then they can keep. But usually, one of the reasons why an elephant would die, because they're hard to kill there's no real predators, is that their teeth, they go through the 6 teeth, their tusks break, they might get an infection in that tooth, which is the tusk, and then they just kind of die. And so they live a really long time.
This is too much for Hallie to take.
I just had all this root canal. I'm like,
I'm sorry, Hallie.
don't talk about it.
At least you don't.
Hallie doesn't want to talk about like 6 sets of teeth that might need
No,
root canal.
I wish I had 6 sets, but like the other part, like
Right.
you grind
grow a
them
new
down
one.
and.
Well, and then they come out, and then they get a new, and then new ones come in, but that keeps them alive. That makes them viable for, living. They live for decades and decades, and I mean, it's really amazing. They're incredible animals. They're very smart. So there's this one zebra who's super zippy and kind of a pill in the elephant refuge, and so the zebra, apparently Butch, who was the tallest elephant at 12 feet and 11,700 pounds. So anyway, the zebra is kind of a pill. He got kicked out of the horse enclosure down the hill. So he hangs out with the elephants. And he's very zippy, runs all around this thing. He's much more active than any of the other guys. But he'll come over to Butch and he'll bite him right on his snout, right on his nose. And Butch is very calm. He just kind of picks him up with that trunk, which is super powerful. There's like thousands and thousands of muscles in their trunk. He picks him up, he kind of sways him back and forth, and then he just gently sets him back on the ground, and the little guy runs off. And he's not little. Like for us, he would be a big animal, but for the elephant, he's a little guy. And it's really incredible to see these guys interact, or the ostrich,
Wow.
And he's running around in there, just doing
I
this.
love interspecies,
It's really cool.
Sway.
Yeah, that is really really special.
I
It
thought
really
you were
was
gonna
great.
say like
Do y'all
you rode
remember?
against the
Y'all
wall.
remember Coco, the sign language
Yes,
Coco
gorilla?
the gorilla
she
with his
she
kitten.
lives in the Bay Area.
really.
Yeah, she lives in Woodside.
Wow. That's a,
Pretty expensive address, I understand.
I know. I found that out maybe a couple years ago, and I was really surprised because we never hear about her, locally. You can't just like go visit her, but she's
wow.
lived here for quite a while.
That's really cool.
Yeah. All right. Guess what time it is?
Time to go.
I got a Gilmore Gang.
I got to go too.
Yeah, we got a busy day. So
I gotta
ladies,
go.
My parents just arrived and we're going to lunch
Ah,
for my birthday.
Hello, Wait. When's your birthday? Didn't we already
It
celebrate
was
your birthday?
2 weeks ago.
That's
but
right.
they're-
We
Yeah,
celebrated
you're
your
on a trip.
birthday.
it's a while ago.
So
Wait,
it's
we have
still
a cluster of birthdays. Yours, Christy's,
Rebecca's. Wasn't Rebecca's?
Rebecca's
also?
birthday
Yeah.
was
For mine.
just also yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of
These
Libras
are the
around here.
Valentine's Day babies.
Libra,
Yeah.
I think. Okay. All right. So we'd like to thank Ustream for their streaming and recording services that they lend us and help us with. New tech and their wonderful TriCaster. I get to push a lot of fun buttons and hopefully learn more and more about their wonderful product. I'd like to thank you all because you all and Hallie's got her glasses on. So cool.
These are my goodbye
I'd like to
glasses.
thank you all because you have such a wonderful spirit, and I just love doing this show. If I'm having a crappy week or a crummy day, this picks me up even when I'm not feeling well. So thank you all for more glasses. And thank you for being here. Thank you, Rebecca, Hallie,
Tina.
and Mary. Thanks so much. Any parting words? Any words of wisdom? Okay.
Get
so
outside of your comfort zone.
okay. That's right. That's right. Hallie,
at least get
can you
outside.
can you say goodbye for us?
It's something like that, right?
Step
Get out of
outside your comfort zone. Go out and
And-
do something good
but
like
take-
Mary did. And
But
come
take
back
your
and talk to us
TriCaster
about it.
with you.
All right. This is G3 signing off. We'll see you next week. All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye.